On a sweltering July morning in 1881, President James Garfield walked through Washington's Baltimore Potomac Railroad station. He was in high spirits, looking forward to a summer vacation with his family. But waiting in the shadows was a deranged office seeker named Charles Guiteau. He was about to change the course of American history. 2 shots rang out. 1 bullet grazed the president's arm. The second lodged somewhere in his back. As Garfield collapsed to the floor, he reportedly exclaimed, "My God, what is this?" The assassination attempt should have been just the beginning of this story. Instead, what followed was an 80-day saga of medical malpractice that would turn a survivable wound into a death sentence. Soon enters into the story Dr. Willard Bliss, a physician who quickly took charge of the president's care. But Bliss's supreme confidence masked a fatal flaw. He rejected the new theory of antiseptic medicine. As he and other doctors repeatedly probed Garfield's wound with unwashed hands and dirty instruments, they introduced infection after infection. "The infection is spreading rapidly. We must find the bullet." In a desperate attempt to locate the bullet, the White House reached out to an unlikely source, Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor of the telephone. Bell worked frantically to develop a new device, an electrical induction balance that could detect metal inside the human body. "If only we can locate the bullet precisely, perhaps we can save him." But Bell's invention failed because Dr. Bliss only allowed Bell to search one side of the president's body, the side where Bliss incorrectly believed the bullet was lodged. In addition, the metal springs in Garfield's bed interfered with the device. Fun fact, Cabinet member Robert Todd Lincoln was with the president when he was shot at the train station. He was also present at his father's death 16 years before. He would also witness the murder of McKinley 20 years later. Of the 4 presidential assassinations, he was there for 3 of them. Many doctors probed President James Garfield's wounds in an attempt to find the bullet that had shot him, but their unsterile techniques and lack of knowledge about germs contributed to his death. 12 different doctors inserted unsterilized fingers and instruments into Garfield's back, probing for the bullet. As summer wore on, Garfield was moved to a cottage by the sea in Elberon, New Jersey. The nation watched and waited, although newspapers were not reporting quite the truth. President Garfield's strength is increasing every minute, and he is quite cheerful. Physicians announce that as soon as his pulse reaches 70, another attempt will be made to probe the bullet. The president continues to improve. Railroad engineers laid a special track with a cotton padding to transport him as gently as possible, but by then it was too late. The once robust president had lost over 100 pounds. His body was riddled with infection. On September 19, 1881, President Garfield died, not from the bullet, but from the doctor's attempts to save him. Before Garfield's last words, he said to his chief of staff, who was sitting beside him, "Oh, Swaim, this terrible pain, press your hands on it." When Swaim put his hands on Garfield's chest, Garfield's hands went up in reflex. He clutched his heart and exclaimed, "Oh, Swaim, can't you stop this? Oh, Swaim." Garfield then had a stroke that proved fatal. His funeral was one of the largest in American history. Over 100,000 people viewed his body as he laid in state in Washington. The funeral train that carried his body back to Cleveland passed before hundreds of thousands of mourners, many holding candles in the night. Meanwhile, Charles Guiteau's trial became a media sensation. The assassin acted as his own lawyer, delivering rambling speeches and even writing poems about the killing. He claimed God had ordered him to kill Garfield, and he famously declared, "The doctors killed Garfield. I just shot him." Guiteau reportedly wanted a British bulldog revolver with Irish grips instead of a wooden one. He believed that it would look nicer when the gun was displayed in a museum, but he decided not to spend the extra $1 that the ivory grip model would cost. Though he could not afford the extra $1, the store owner dropped the price for him. In all, he paid $10 for the revolver, a box of cartridges, and a penknife. The next day, he familiarized himself with the revolver's operations. He fired 10 practice shots with it into a tree along the banks of the Potomac River. He used this revolver to shoot Garfield a week later. After Guiteau's trial, the revolver was placed in the Smithsonian Institute, but disappeared sometime later. Guiteau was hung on June 30th, 1882, in the District of Columbia, just 2 days before the first anniversary of the shooting. Weird fact: an autopsy of his brain revealed that he may have had neurosyphilis, a disease that causes mental instability. His skull is now in the National Museum of Health and Medicine collection. His skull showed he was suffering from advanced tooth decay. Part of his brain is located at the Mutter Museum in Philadelphia and at the National Museum of Health and Medicine in Washington, D.C. After the president's death, Vice President Chester A. Arthur took the oath of office and became the 21st President of the United States. In addition, over $300,000 was raised to help the First Lady and her children. Hundreds of people wrote letters sending their condolences to the family. Many of those letters were kept in the memorial library his wife created after her husband's death. The library is considered the first presidential memorial library and the birthplace of the idea for presidential libraries across the country. Large amounts of memorabilia for the late presidents were also made and could be seen in many homes across the country. His monument at Lakeview Cemetery in Cleveland, Ohio, was one of the biggest and most elaborate mausoleums of its time. People wanted a lasting memorial to Garfield, much like his wife wanted when she created the memorial library at their home in Mentor, Ohio. Garfield, the former First Lady, their daughter Mary Molly Garfield Stanley Brown, and another relative are all entombed in the Garfield family crypt. His legacy still survives in his home state of Ohio. On October 12, 2023, the Ohio governor signed a bill designating November 19th as James A. Garfield Day in Ohio. Garfield's death led to major changes in American medicine. The case demonstrated the importance of sterile medical practices and helped establish them as the standard procedure. It also sparked the creation of the first presidential succession law. James Garfield served just 200 days as president, but his death served as a catalyst for change, advancing both medical science and presidential security. Today, his memorial stands as a testament to a presidency cut tragically short, not just by an assassin's bullet, but by the limits of 19th century medicine. Thank you for watching today. We invite you to watch all our famous funeral and obituary videos.